All right, we are so back. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike. And today for UFC Vegas 84, I'm joined by my guy, James, Lucrative MMA. How's it going, brother? Thanks for pulling up.
Yes.
How you feeling about this card?
I'm feeling good, bro. I'm feeling good to be back. You know, I got my coffee. I'm ready to rock and roll. Thanks for having me on. First card back, so I know it's a privilege, you know. It's a privilege for me to be coming back for your first show of the year. That was a banger intro, bro. Have you had that intro for a while? I don't always keep up with the YouTube stuff.
Yeah, it's been about a few months. My boy made it for me. He's like a producer, DJ guy. And I asked him to do it. He literally made it sitting on the couch in like 3 minutes. He's like, is this good? I was like, that's fire. Thank you.
That was hard, bro. I was ready to rap, man. You need to do a little rap on it. That's the next progression.
If I tried rapping, I might lose all my subscribers I worked so hard for.
You might gain some new ones, bro. You never know, man.
Never. Maybe. I'll do one of those MMA style raps. You ever see the guys rapping about their picks?
Yeah, bro. That fella, I can't remember his name. I think he follows me on Twitter.
He's like really good at it. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. He's good.
Better than I would be.
Right.
But all right, guys. So we've got a 12-fight card. We got some good fights, a lot of prospects on here. We got a lot of crazy lines that we're going to be talking about. I've already got some dogs lined up for this card, and we can jump right in. So for our first one, we've got Felipe Bunes versus Joshua Van. Bunes, 13-6-0, 34 years old, 5'7" with 71-inch reach, making his debut. Van, 9-1-0. He's 22, so he's 12 years younger, 2 inches shorter, and going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, James?
Banger of a fight, isn't it? I like Joshua Van, man. The guy is obviously well put together, 22 years old. Did have that loss 2021, I believe it was. And obviously a lot of people are going to be going back to that fight anytime they bet against him, because it's the only time he's lost. And so it's the time where he's shown real incapabilities. And that was on the ground. It seems like he doesn't maybe have too much when he's put on his back. I don't think he's the best jiu-jitsu player. I mean, outside of that, the guy's a bit of a beast. You know, he's got great body work, as we all know. Everyone's going to be speaking about the body work and the boxing in general this week, because we saw it on full display in the last fight. And I kind of feel like the last fight is going to pan out in this fight. I think a lot of people after the fight may be saying Bunes' value, or at least after the first round. But I don't think he is value. I think Bunes is like the illusion of value. Something I've been speaking about for about 4 years is oftentimes you get illusion of value. You watch a fight, you take a fight and you go, surely this fight is going to have some moments. I can see that there's some type of path to victory. But when it's all said and done, it was more illusion of value than actual value. And I feel like that with Borjas versus Van. Borjas was like plus 200 or something, right? And he was pinging the head off him in the first round. He looked clear value. After that first round, it's like Borjas amazing bet, unbelievable bet, definitely value. But in my opinion, after the third round, we can kind of see that it wasn't value. Van was 80% in that fight. The guy's got very good durability, especially on the feet. His pace and pressure is something that is just a meta in MMA these days. Pace and pressure, man. Pace, pressure, and durability, and you're good. You're good to go. Benoit Saint Denis shows that pace, pressure, and durability. These fighters that can push a great pace, that always pressure their opponents and have good durability, like Khabib Nurmagomedov did, they're some of the best fighters in the entire sport. Shavkat Rakhmonov can do that. I remember he did that in a Jeff Neal fight. You know, crazy pace, durability, crazy pressure. So I think it's going to be tough to beat Joshua Van. I think Bunes can maybe do something with the takedowns. He does shoot takedowns, but I don't love what I've seen on him on the regional scene. Obviously, he went over to ACA and basically lost every fight. I think he got one win in ACA. He kind of got exposed out there a little bit. Even in that fight against, what's the fella's name? Cruz? Wesley Cruz?
Waldo Cruz.
Huascar Cruz, right? It was a good back and forth fight, right? I don't think it should have been a split decision at all. You know, Bunes clearly won the fight, but it was a good back and forth fight. And the guy looked good. He made Huascar look good, but I don't think he is good. He's 13-11 now. He's lost 11 times. He's won 13 times. And he made the guy look good. And that combined with what I've seen in ACA, combined with when I see Formiga choke him out, when he missed weight by 4 pounds, way post his UFC career. You know, Formiga came into that fight in not great shape. He missed weight by 4 pounds, and he didn't run through him. It was a decent first round, but he just choked him out as soon as he got the back. Obviously, Formiga can get back against anyone. I don't take too much away from him, but I don't know, man. I just don't really see it from Bunes here. Obviously, could potentially do something on the ground. He definitely has some advantage there, I would say. But I've seen him be reversed before by not great fighters. I think Van can reverse him, get back to his feet. I think Van's going to put it on him and probably finish him in the second or third round.
Yeah, I don't fully disagree. For me, it's like, I do feel like there's value on Bunes just because for me, Van is still such an unknown. He's young, he's green. I know he's a stud, and he certainly seems to have a lot of potential, and he's already good. But he's still super green. He's still making mistakes. We haven't really seen any of his ground game tested recently. Like the last time I think he's even been attempted to be taken down was like the Paris Moran fight. And then Devin Jackson, like you mentioned, that was 2021. And like, I understand he was super young when he got submitted by Jackson. He was like 20. Now he's 22. But that's the thing. He's 22 still. It's 2 years. Yeah. When you're young, you're advancing, you're improving much faster, but you're still young. You're still making stupid mistakes. And we see that all the time with these young fighters. And until I see more with his ground game, I can't really confidently bet him going against a guy like Bunes, who I do know is a good grappler, who I do know has good submissions, who I do know can wrestle. In the striking, do I think he's completely shot, Bunes? Not completely shot. If they are standing, though, and he can't get takedowns, I do think he gets finished. And I do think the round 2, round 3 knockouts for Van, I've seen a lot of people on them. Those make sense. But first off, like, do we even know if Bunes really has bad cardio where he's going to gas like that? He seemed all right in the Cruz fight. Didn't really seem too gassed to me. And maybe it's different with Van laying on the body shots. Maybe that'll gas him out, and then he can get that later finish. But for me, at least, especially in round 1, I think Bunes is going to be able to get success. I do see him winning the first round at a decent clip. Maybe not every single time, but at a decent clip. And I do think that sub's going to be there. I can't confidently dive in and bet Bunes either, even though I'm tempted at plus 210, just because he is 34. He is relatively inactive, and Van is a stud. And it's hard to get in front of a guy like Van and be like, I want to fade him. But it's not me fading him. It's just me trying to find the value here, where I do think it is with the grappler. I'll see. This fight, I've been all over the place, back and forth. I considered the Van late props. I almost played Van when he was minus 180. Now he's like minus 210 or something. I see everyone parlaying him. To me, it just seems like a spot that really probably isn't the move to parlay. There's just a clear way that he can lose. He can be submitted. I do think that's a thing that can happen. I think that should be a concern for anyone backing him at this price. So I'm probably going to stay off. I'm going to see what the domestic books offer for Bunes by sub, because it's plus 350 on Bet Online. I'd like something a little bit better than that. Maybe just make a small play on that, because I do think it's probably sub or bust for Bunes here. But we'll see. I mean, the size also, we haven't really seen Van fight anyone that much larger than him. We don't know how that's going to play out in the grappling. We really don't know. The guy who subbed him was smaller than him, and he was a good wrestler, though. So we'll see. For me, it's a lot of unknowns. It's a pass right now. I'm going to pick Van to win, but the only bet I'm considering right now is Bunes by sub. And we can move on to the next prospect on the list. We've got Tom Nolan and Nikolas Motta. Nolan, he's 6-0 undefeated, 23, another super young guy. 6'3" with the 76-inch reach. Motta on the other side, 13-5-0, 7 years older at 30. Going to be 5 inches shorter at 5'9" and have a 6-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off here. So I took Nolan. I took the early line on DraftKings when it opened up. I got like minus 165, something like that, which I thought was a pretty good price. Now he's like minus 300, which I think is outrageous. Tom Nolan's good. He's super explosive, very solid striking. At the same time, I still think he's way too green for a price tag like that. Like, you go back to his Cook fight, that was not a great look, even though he won that fight. Cook was kind of just standing there, just taking a beating and still landing shots, still finding success. Similar to how I feel about Van, I still think he's very green. I still think there's holes. I just don't really think Motta is going to be the guy to take advantage. He might be able to knock him out. I do think that Nolan kind of has that tall man's defense where the chin is up. He's kind of just standing there with the chin up, very hittable. I do think a guy with power like Motta could knock him out, could hurt him. But more likely, I kind of just see Nolan coming in hot here and getting that early finish. Motta's been knocked out, 4 times now? Looked awful in that Ogden fight. Got bailed out crazy. I had Ogden there. That sucked, but it happens. And I just feel that Nolan should win this. I just also don't think you should be playing him at minus 300. Like, I think this line is just done. So Nolan's aside. I don't think it's bettable anymore, though. How about you?
Yeah, I think Nolan's going to win the fight. Motta hasn't shown me anything in the UFC to where I can back him. He looked terrible against Trey Ogden, looked terrible against most other fighters. You know, he got knocked out against some fighters who can knock you out early. So we don't take massive amounts away from him. But the guy's got knocked out many, many times in his career. It's not like a new thing. And then on top of that, he just looked bad against Trey Ogden, and he basically got finished as well. You know, so it's like, what has he done in the UFC to where I can back him against someone like Nolan, who seems to be a good fighter? I feel like Nolan's one of them guys where everyone's going to like hate on him, but he's actually just good. You know, it just feels like that because obviously he got an early knockout. He's coming off the Australian regional scene. You know, Australian, New Zealand regional scene always clowned in MMA. It's not the worst regional scene, man. It's decent. Like, it's not the... I mean, there's worse regional scenes. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of decent fighters come out of Australia. Even Jack Della Maddalena. That guy's clowned all the time. I mean, the guy's like 6-0 in the UFC or whatever. He's just running through everyone for the most part, right? It's just... He's clowned in the UFC just because he's Australian. But I think he's a good fighter, Tom Nolan. He beat Adam Cook. You mentioned Adam Cook. Adam Cook's not a bad fighter. He's a good fighter, bro. He's a fighter from CKB, which is here in Auckland. He's a good grappler. Like, Cook's a good fighter, man. Like, actually, that was the most impressive fight of Nolan's career. And I know he came through a lot of adversity, but that's why it was impressive. And also because I rate Cook. He's a good fighter. So I don't take much away from him for, you know, showing some adversity in that fight. He's shown me he can come through adversity. When has Motta come through adversity? I haven't seen the Selecki fight. You know, that's one that I wanted to see. Motta knocked out Selecki in the 3rd round. Is that correct, right?
Why do I not remember that?
No, it wasn't in the UFC, though. It was previous to
Oh, right. Yeah.
Is that correct? I'm thinking of the right guy, right? I'm pretty sure Motta did it.
Let me double check. Sounds right.
The only reason I mention that is because I haven't seen the fight, but I'm pretty sure I heard a transcript of the fight from one of my mates, and he said that he got taken down early and then he knocked him out late. So I guess he has come through some adversity. If I'm thinking of the right guy.
He did knock him out. Yeah, he did.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't actually seen that fight. It's hard to find, but maybe he came through adversity there, right? But I haven't seen it with my own eyes. And I think Nolan's going to go through him early, man. I feel like everyone's going to be saying, oh, crazy line. And he's just going to go for him and cover the line. He probably knocks him out early many, many times. So, yeah, I'm going with Nolan knockout.
I'm with you there. All right, real quick, we got a guy over here. What do you think about Despain, next big fighter? Me personally, I'm excited to see him. I just think they brought him in kind of late. He's like, 34, 36 now. So they're going to really have to push him, which they're already doing. They're giving him Josh Parisian. But, hey, I'm excited to see him. Could be kind of a bust because I doubt he has much grappling. He comes straight from Taekwondo, and he hasn't been training MMA very long. But we're going to have to see. How about you, James? Any thoughts?
No, why has he got so much hype on him?
Because he's like an Olympic Taekwondo guy, and like all his fights have been like 5 seconds long.
Oh, okay.
I think like his last 3 were like 19 seconds long.
I guess he's going to get finished at some point then. I don't know anything about him, to be honest, bro. I see him going on social media, so I don't even know who this guy is.
Yeah, he's just giant and athletic, but might be hard for him once they give him a grappler.
Yeah.
Moving on, though. Next fight up, we've got the most anticipated matchup for 2024. We have Westin Wilson versus John Silva. Wilson is 16-8-0. He's 34 years old, 6'1" at the 73-inch reach. Silva 11-2-0, He's going to be 7 years younger, 4 inches shorter, and have a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, James?
Bro, I don't have too much to say about this one. I mean, what's the price now? Minus 1,000 or something?
No, I think really 900 or 1,000. Yeah,
900. I don't have much to say, man. Yeah, I don't think Westin Wilson's a great fighter. I think that what happened in the Brito fight wasn't a fluke. I think the Silva can probably go through him. I didn't spend any time on this fight, honestly, bro. The odds were out before I started taping, and yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say. I think that Westin Wilson will probably get finished again. The guy gets finished all the time. I don't think he lasts very long in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I don't think Wilson's the worst guy on the roster. I was watching him, and I was like, he's okay, but I think he's going to lose maybe 2 more times and get cut. Silva, he's good, but I also think he's a little overhyped. I don't think he should be minus 900 over pretty much anyone, even though he'll probably look it in this fight. For me, the only thing I'm considering that's worth talking about is fight starts round 2. Because the way I see it, I think Silva starts a little bit slow. And I don't think he's this one-punch kind of knockout guy. I don't think he's going to run here and just put Wilson out right away. So I'm considering just going that route. We'll see what they offer on the books, what DraftKings gives, because over 1.5 is plus 275. If I can get plus 200 for fight starts round 2, I'll take a small shot on that. But other than that, I have no interest in this fight. Silva should kill him.
I was going to play the under 1.5. The props weren't out when I taped it, but the money line was out. And I saw it opened up at not even open. I don't bet them, but I saw it settled at like minus 300 or something. I thought that's absolute insanity, man. Some of the lines this week on the unders are crazy. The Hawes one, the Westin Wilson one, and I think the Arlovski Waldo, or there's another one where it's just like
Motta Nolan is plus 700 to go to decision.
Yeah, they're all around that 700 range. Those 3 there, I don't know if the books are getting sharper or whether they're making a big mistake on at least one of them and they're going to get hit. We'll find out, I guess.
I honestly think one of them might hit. I considered the Phil Hawes one. We'll talk about that later, but the price is gone already.
Yeah.
But moving on to a more competitive fight. This one I'm actually really excited for. We've got Farid Basharat versus Taylor Lapilus. Basharat is 11-0, undefeated. He's 26 years old, 5'8" with the 71-inch reach. Lapilus, 19-3-0. He's 31, 5 years older, 2 inches shorter. I'm going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. I'll start us off here. I like Lapilus. I'll be completely honest. I played him relatively early at plus 180. I do wish I waited because now he's like plus 210. But I still felt like I got a good line. I feel like I got value. I don't think it should be this wide. I feel like Basharat shouldn't be more than like minus 150. Basharat has a clear path here. He does have that wrestling. He's a fantastic grappler. Both him and his brother. Very positionally sound. Great transitions once he's on the ground. But in Lapilus, yeah, he can be taken down. He has been taken down. But I think his takedown defense is actually pretty solid. I think it's being underrated a little bit. I like what he's like when I'm watching guys. I'm not just looking at the numbers of their stats for takedown defense. I'm looking at what they're doing. I'm looking for hand control, looking for how fast they're looking for those underhooks. I'm looking for what they're doing against the cage. Are they doing that thing where they grab the guy's head from behind? Because that's a no-no. So those are things I'm looking at. For me, Lapilus shows everything I need to see from a guy who's trying to work on his takedown defense. And in terms of the striking, I personally think he's a much better striker than Basharat. Maybe you have a different point of view there, but I really like Lapilus' striking. I think he's clean. I think his movement is really good. He's good at range management. His jab, the 1-2, is very crisp, nice down the pipe. You don't see him throwing wild overhand rights or anything like that. I just think this is a very big step up for Basharat. I think Basharat's best win before this was Blackshear, which is impressive. I do rate Blackshear. I just think that Lapilus is a different kind of challenge, a better striker than someone like Blackshear, someone who's very experienced, has fought some really good guys outside of the UFC. Got guys like Marcus Brunno, who I rate very highly as well. And he's beating these guys. DeMarte Pena is pretty solid. Finished him. So for me, Lapilus at plus 180 was a relatively easy click to make. Maybe he loses. I end up looking wrong. Happens. But I have a hard time saying that this line is correct. I do think it's off. How about you, James?
Yeah, I think you are correct. I played Callan Lofran in his last fight against Lapilus at like plus 200. And I'm playing Lapilus this time at plus 200. The game is a game of numbers, as we know. And I don't really care who you are. I don't have favorites. I I try and delete my bias as much as possible. And in competitive fights like this, where I think it could easily be 1-1 going into the third, and a few slight technical adjustments will win either fight of the fight, I have to play plus 200. You know, I slightly favored Lapilus against Lothran, and he slightly won against Lothran. You know, it was 1-1 going into the third. It was a close fight. Lothran wasn't really able to take him down much. When he was striking, he was actually doing quite well, which is funny. But I feel like the same here. You know, I've got to take the plus 200s in a close fight. Lapilus obviously has a problem with takedown defense with the ground. You know, he's obviously going to get probably taken down here. Basharat is very smart fighter. He will go for the takedowns. We've seen in like every fight in his entire career, for the most part, he goes for takedowns. So I think he will do it here. He probably will get one or two. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout performance at minus 250. So yes, it might be a minus EV win for Basharat, you know, a plus EV loss for me, which those are the ones that sting more. But who knows, man? Like, the judges are a bit fucked. And I always say in like competitive fights, plus 200s don't even have to win. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might be one of those ones where Lapilus looks value, but he really should lose. But then they just give it to Lapilus anyway. Do you know, it's like, it doesn't take much for me to bet a plus 200 in this game in a competitive fight, I think. So I don't think he's going to finish him. I feel like Lapilus is quite tough. I think his submission defense is good. I don't think he's going to get finished. So if he doesn't get finished, it's probably going to be at least close throughout some of the 15 minutes. So yeah, I'm with you on Lapilus, man. We'll see how it goes. I'm not confident he's going to win. I'm confident we got some value, though.
Do you ever do like spread bets, the plus 3.5s, the minus?
I don't really have too much access to it, so I don't. But that's not a bad one. For me, I don't like speaking on things that I don't do, you know. So I don't like, because people ask me these questions a lot of times in markets that I don't bet, and they say, "Oh, what do you think about this?" or "What do you think about this future bet?" or whatever. And I'm like, I don't really have any data on that to know whether I'm good at it or not. Like, yeah, of course I can tell you the overall structure of MMA betting and like if I believe there's certain value, but people always ask me these type of questions. Do you think there's value on that? And it's just, I don't like speaking about things that I haven't shown an edge on. So I don't know if I can speak on that too much, but I am curious of what the odds are for him to win a round.
So last I looked, it was plus 125, which I thought was pretty nice. Because for me, like, I've been pretty good at them. But the issue is you can be good at them all you want. But with our judging these days, one judge gives a 30-27 where it should have been a 29-28, and your bet loses. And that's happened to me like 3 out of 6 times that I've done it so far. So it's like, do I really want to keep betting them? At this point, I made one of my rules for this year. I'm only playing spreads if it's plus money. So if I didn't already have a unit on Lapilus, I'd probably have at least a unit on that. But do I want 2 units on him in case Basharat does get a finish? No, not really. Basharat is good. He's young. He'll be improving. So I don't really want to mess around with that much of a stake.
So with the spread bets, you have to win 1 round on every judge's scorecard. But what if you win 1 round on one judge's scorecard, 29-28 to the other fella, 30-27 you lose, but it's a split decision. You win 30-27 on the other card. Does that count as 2?
30-27, 20. I believe so. I mean, you'd have to add it all up, right? And then add the 3.5 points. But
okay, so it's not over one judge's scorecard. It's just basically on all the scorecards.
Yeah. It's just the points in general.
Yeah. Okay.
People just say like one round on each judge's scorecard just because it's like an easy way to say it. But yeah, if 30-27s would even it out.
Yeah, like that's a good bet in my opinion. But like you said, there's intangibles that go into it. Like if one judge scores a rogue scorecard when you really should have had it. So these type of things hard for me to quantify when I've never bet on it. But in my opinion, that sounds like a good bet to me.
Yeah, it's plus money. I personally would have bet it if I didn't already have a unit down. The last time I did it was Stephanie Egger against Santos. And I played it at minus money. It was like minus 130 or something. And I felt great about it. I was right. One judge gave Santos 30-27, and there went my bet.
Yeah, tough, man. Tough stuff.
The game we play. Moving on, though. Next up, we've got Marcus McGhee versus Gaston Bolanos. McGhee, 8-1-0. He's 33 years old, 5'8" with the 69-inch reach. Bolanos 7-3-0, 31. He's 2 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and they're gonna have the same reach. I'll start us off here. I don't like Bolanos very much. I'm seeing a lot of dog love for him here, and like I get it, plus 200, plus 250. McGhee's relatively green, but once I taped it, I don't really get it. Bolanos to me seems relatively one-dimensional. He's a striker, and everyone's like talking about how great his striking is. He's got nice leg kicks, and he's got like 3 punches he does, and that's really all I saw. Not super impressed. Takedown defense looks pretty weak. Fought Aaron Phillips, got that win, got taken down like 4 times. Didn't look that great. Phillips, I don't think fought in like a year or 2 before that, if not longer. Just didn't look good to me. And McGhee, he looks very solid. I tried fading him with JP Bays last time out. That was a bad, that was a bad bet, man. Plus 300 tempted me, and yeah, that was a horrible play. But McGhee, he's a solid striker. I really like what I'm seeing from him on the feet. I don't think he's going to be out of place on the feet here. I do think he can compete, and I do think he has the grappling that if he is uncomfortable, he could take it down there. He's not some amazing wrestler. It's really not his thing, but we have seen little glimpses. He couldn't do it. He's at a good camp for it, MMA Lab. One of the best gyms, if you ask me, for bantamweights. There's so many good ones there. We're talking about guys like Sean O'Malley, Kyler Phillips, Casey Kenny, wherever the hell he went. Really good camp for that weight class. Good jiu-jitsu. So it's pretty easy McGhee for me. I don't think playing him minus 300 or whatever it is the best strategy, but I think he's going to dominate, and I think he's probably going to submit him. So that's a prop that I'll be looking out for. How about you, James?
Yeah, I was also on the JP buys train, bro. We swung for the fences, man. You know, in life, sometimes you got to swing. Thank you, brother. Sometimes you got to swing, you know, and we swung, and so did Marcus McGhee, and he knocked out the boy JP buys, you know, rest in peace to that guy. It is what it is, bro. Like, we tried, you know. I can't go back to the well here because JP buys had big grappling upside there. He still does, in my opinion. I don't think Marcus McGhee's great. Like, I think he can be taken down. I think he can be put in bad positions on the mat. I know that for a fact. I thought Buys would do it. It's cool, man. You know, we take a shot every now and then. It's there. A lot of times we're going to get blown out in round 1. I can't do it because Bolanos doesn't really have any grappling upside at all, right? So it's going to be a striking fight where I think McGhee can hurt him on the feet as well. And McGhee obviously has the grappling upside here. Bolanos ain't a great fighter, man. I don't think he's good at all, to be honest. Like, he was hyped in Bellator. Was massively hyped because pretty sure he fought for Bellator kickboxing. And he got a couple good knockouts over there. And I remember he had a highlight reel knockout. It was like a spinning back elbow or something. And it basically went viral on social media. And it got multiple millions of views. I believe it was like 20 times or something. And basically off that knockout, he was massively hyped. Kind of like how Buckley was big hyped off the whoever he knocked out. Impa Kasanganai knockout, yeah? So that's why he was hyped originally. And I think he's cool. He's got a cool name, Gaston Bolanos and that. So he was a little bit overhyped. But it's funny because now he's coming into UFC, and I kind of think McGhee's a little bit overhyped now. I think he might get found out at some point in his UFC career. I just can't back this striker to do it, coming in from Bellator, who has never looked good. Like, what Bolanos fight is just looking really good. Like, great 15-minute performance. I haven't seen it on tape, you know? Like, against someone decent, I haven't seen it, man. Even in Bellator, the guy's like, I actually faded him in Bellator against, I can't remember the guy's name now, but the one he finished in the rematch.
Carey?
Yeah, he got finished by him in the first fight, like guillotine, I think it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I bet on Carey at like plus 200 or something in the rematch, man. So I don't rate this guy, man. So I think McGhee's going to win the fight. I don't know how he's going to do it. Everyone is probably going to think that Bolanos can't be knocked out because he's like a really good kickboxer apparently, but I don't think he's a great kickboxer. I actually think he can be knocked out here. I actually think McGhee might knock him out, you know.
Yeah, definitely with you there. Don't think Bolanos is that great. And I'm also like with McGhee, that's why I faded him with JP Bays, because if there's a grappling edge for the other guy, I'm going to take the shot because I do think McGee's still green there, but that's not a concern here at all. Bolanos is not going to take him down. I'd bet a lot of money on that.
I want to say one thing because thinking that breakdown seemed very, very confident on McGhee. I'm not actually that confident on this fight overall. So I'm confident that I don't like Bolanos as a fighter, and he's not really the fighter I'd ever get behind or back because I don't even think he's UFC level. Like I honestly don't. So I could never bet him. But I also don't really know much about McGhee. There's something about McGhee that I don't love. I think he might be overhyped. I think the market may be overpricing him in just most fights until he loses. And I don't have a full grip on his skill set or a great read on him. And something that's very important in MMA is you have bogey fighters and you have ace fighters. I like to call them bogey fighters that you never get a good read on them. Or you always bet on them and then they lose, but then when you bet against them, they win. And you know these type of fighters, we all have them, right? And I feel like McGhee might be that type of fighter for me. So instead of putting my money on all of his fights and finding out, I did it on the JP buys. I ain't really going to like risk my money on a fighter that I don't think I have a good read on. So I'm just going to step back on this one. Like, I ain't saying that Bolanos is a terrible bet in this spot, fading McGhee at minus 300. So I want to make that clear. I'm just more confident that I think Bolanos is bad than I am that I think McGhee wins the fight, if that makes sense. So I'm just stepping back and I'm just calling this fight a pass for me.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. At this line, I think that's fair. But moving on, we've got another good fight. We got Matheus Semelsberger versus Preston Parsons. Semelsberger 11-6-0. He's 31 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. On the other side, Parsons is going to be 10-4-0, 28. He's 3 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, brother?
All right, can you just say that again, bro? I just checking Twitter. Sorry about that.
You got it. Parsons and Semelsberger.
This is a weird one. I think Parsons is going to take him down because I don't like Semelsberger. I've tried to fade Semelsberger a couple times. I was successful in the Medic fade, so I won my bet there as a decent underdog. I was unsuccessful in my AJ Fletcher. That was the minus EV win for Semelsberger, where he got dominated in the first round, almost 10-8'd. I have to watch that fight every time Semelsberger fights because I know that it was a struggle fight for him and it kind of displayed his cardio and also grappling deficiencies. So I always have to watch that fight. And I'm always reminded of how annoyed I am in AJ Fletcher because that fight was right there, man. It was right there, but he was just too tired and he got reversed in round 2 and round 3 a little bit. So he obviously lost the fight, but he got dominated in the first round by the grappling. And I think that's the only I bet on Semelsberger, to be fair, against Martin Sano at like minus 400 because Martin Sano is like unbelievably bad. He was coming in because he was friends with Nick Diaz. That was the card that Nick Diaz was on, or Nate Diaz. It was one of them, and he was their training partner, so they got him in. So he came in out of shape and stuff. But Martin Sano has a good win on his record. I remember who did Martin Sano win? He beat someone good, you know.
He has that one, yeah.
I remember taping him, and it was like, oh shit, he's got a good win on his record, but he was so bad. Do you remember that guy?
Jeff Neal.
Bro, the dude beat Jeff Neal, and now I was like, what? I'm fading him at minus 400 again with Matheus Semelsberger, even though he beat Jeff Neal. But that was 2013. Like back in the day. Didn't he have like a 5-year layoff or something crazy like that? It did, didn't he? When he come back for the UFC,
yeah, he did.
Yeah, the guy just weren't fighting at all. But that's getting into the weeds, man. But like, I guess I'm like up and down on Semelsberger. You know, I'm 1-1-1, I guess, or 2-1. So I don't really like Semelsberger. I've made a little bit of money on him in the past, but in general, I feel like he's got power, and that's about it. Don't really know what else he has. The thing is, like, he's got power. But I think Martin Sano's the only guy who's finished in the UFC, and he's had about 7 fights. That is the only guy who's finished.
Pretty sure you're right. Yeah, he's knocking them all down. Oh, and Jason Witt.
Okay, yeah, true. I bet on Jason Witt there. And I bet on Jake Matthews' submission. So actually, I've bet on almost all of this guy. I've basically bet against this guy like 9 times out of 10, right? So I just don't like him. And I think Preston Parsons can take him down. I think he can. I don't want to say compete on the feet because I do think he'll get knocked down. Maybe not knocked out, but knocked down, as we see all the time. But I just feel like, I don't know. I think Preston Parsons can take him down, man. There's nothing more to say. I think he can just take him down 3 rounds and win the fight.
Yeah, I have a really similar read where I'm tempted on Parsons as the underdog. I think the grappling edge is clearly there. We've seen that now with the Wells fight. We saw that with the Fletcher fight, like you were mentioning. 2 fights where he fought okay. I mean, I think Wells is a good grappler. I think Fletcher is an okay grappler. In both of those, he didn't look too good in the grappling. I think that Parsons is very solid as well. I'd rate him closer to Wells than Fletcher in the grappling. Like the transitions on the ground. I like the takedowns themselves. I like that he fights for your money. He's going to keep moving forward. All those good things. Only reason I can't get to the bet is because Semelsberger does clearly have power. Like, I don't usually take stats too much into account, but I mean, he's gotten in 9 fights. Out of 9 fights, he's knocked people down in 8 of those. Only one he didn't was Chaos Williams. So, and AJ Fletcher, he didn't knock down either. But he's knocking guys down. He's got the power. He's a good striker. And the problem with Parsons is his striking defense is awful. He leads with his head. The striking itself is pretty sloppy, mostly overhands, and everything's got a hook to it. I think he just might be winning this fight till he's not, till Semelsberger touches him and he gets and knocks him out. So for me, I think the value is on Parsons. I think he's the right side, at least from a betting angle, if I was going to put money on it. But I'm not betting on guys who I think can get knocked out anymore. I'm done with that. So for me here, it's a pass. I wish the under 2.5 was playable. We don't even have one yet, but I don't think it's going to be because fight doesn't go is like minus 300. That would have been a good bet because I think if Semelsberger doesn't get a knockout, I think Parsons can get a late sub. But other than that, for me, this fight's just a pass because it's too hard to predict. I think it can go either way pretty easily.
Such a massive path to victory for Preston, though, man. It's like so obvious because it's easier to land a takedown than a knockout, right? Or like a knockdown. Way easier, right? Way easier. It's not even in the same stratosphere. Like how many takedowns are in fights and how many knockdowns are in fights? I guess Semelsberger actually kind of evens that shit up, as you just said.
It's different, yeah.
I can't keep banking on this guy to just knock everyone down, man. The path to victory is so massive for Preston Parsons that I have to do it, man.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I mean, if the line gets any wider, that's what I've been waiting for to see what happens at the line. It's kind of just been standing at the same minus 130 plus 110.
Yeah.
If it moves a little more, I might do it because, like I said, I really do think the path is there. Like you're saying, I'll be so pissed if I put a unit on him. Fresh start to 2024. Parsons dominating all the way and then clipped and it's over.
What's the decision line? I'm not being lazy either. I'm using my phone as a recorder, which I usually check.
Decision for Parsons is plus 400.
That's not bad,
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
You don't need to play the unit. You just need to do the quarter of a unit to get a unit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's fresh start to 2024. It's only a quarter of a unit, bro. Like you need to make these decisions in life. We can reduce the stake and still earn as much money.
That's my thought process with the Bunes sub if I end up doing it. But yeah, it's something. It's just I also think Parsons can get the sub at the same time. Maybe. Even against Evan Elder, though, right? He had him down for 3 rounds, had him all over the place. I think he had like 5 submission attempts, and he didn't get a single one.
Semi's tough, man. Semi's tough. He's very durable, I believe.
Yeah.
And he showed good grit against AJ Fletcher. He got out of some decent guillotines and some front headlock stuff that is actually AJ Fletcher's specialty. So he kind of showed me a little bit in that spot. I think he's hard to finish, man, on the feet and not on the ground. Not to say it can't happen, but 400 to plus 100, in my opinion, that's wide. So what's the sub?
The sub is plus 300.
Yeah, no. Why? He's not more likely to sub him than to decision him, man. He's more likely to decision him, in my opinion. So I think that's some value right there. But
yeah, it's probably because they lined it pretty funky. Because fight goes is plus 225. I think there's a decent amount of value there too, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Parsons is tough. He might get knocked down, but again, Semelsberger got all these knockdowns. Only people he's knocked out are Jason Witt and Martin Sano.
Yeah, man, that's true. That could be an edge right there. I didn't even know that.
That might be a way I look at it. I'm gonna check that out a little bit more. But we can move on. Next up, probably not a very competitive fight. Andrei Arlovski versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Arlovski 34-22-0. He's 44 years old. 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. On the other side, Costa 10-1-0. He's going to be 12 years younger at 32, 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage. So why don't you start us off, James?
Bro, are you ready for revival number 5 for Andrei Arlovski?
I'm ready.
2020, he's got one more run in him, surely. Revival number 5. Everyone's saying he's done, his chin's done. He's just going to grow his beard a bit longer and win a funky split decision, man. Plus 600. What are we saying, bro?
Yeah. We're saying pass.
I think, I do think Wilder's going to finish him, like, all jokes aside. But it's funny because if this fight was, a year ago?
I'd be betting him.
Andrei Arlovski, like before his fight against De Lima and Dontal Mays was horrific. Before those 2 fights, if this fight was 2 years ago, like before those fights, he would probably be plus 110 or something. But now he's plus 600. It's crazy how the lines can move,
It's because Mays knocked him out, and then Costa knocked out Brzeski. Everyone's putting it together. Minus 600.
I do think he's going to get finished, but like, does he win the fight 90% of the time? He's a minus 800, man. Let's just call it 90%.
If you tell me he's not getting a knockout, then I don't think he's winning 9 out of 10 times. But mix in the possibility of a knockout, then yeah.
I'm trying to do it, bro. I'm trying to convince myself. I don't like seeing Waldo at minus 700, but being honest, like, He's Waldo's not a bad fighter, Like, he's a good fighter in my opinion. He's a good boxer, and that's all he really does. You know what I mean? Like, he's a very good boxer for his. He moves well. He moves very, very well. And is Arlovski really gonna? Is he really gonna avoid the boxing? He ain't gonna avoid the boxing, and I don't think his chin's that good. Like, he was hiding it well, but who is he beating really? Jake Collier, the guy. I mean, he don't finish anyone on the feet at all ever in his career. Chase Sherman, like, who else was he beating in that shitty run? Like, he's just beating these fat old guys.
Carlos Felipe.
Yeah, no power. Not great boxing. I mean, pretty boxing, no power. But actually, Waldo has power. He's way more athletic. I think the athletic thing is just the biggest difference. Like, Collier ain't really that athletic. Sherman ain't that athletic. Felipe ain't that athletic. But now he's fighting athletic guys. So I don't want to say it. It seems so easy, but I think Waldo's going to finish him. Whoop-de-doo. What a surprise. I say all that to say that Waldo's going to finish him.
Such a square, James. Such a square. Picking the minus 600.
Hide this top, man.
Take off the sharp t-shirt. Put on the square one.
No, we don't. You got to pay extra for that, boy.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, if this was a year ago, the Dontal Mays knockout didn't happen, I would have already had a unit on Arlovski. I've bet him against all those guys. Felipe, Vandera, Collier, Sherman. Got lucky in the Collier one. Felt dirty winning that one. But my thing has always been, Arlovski's going to beat unremarkable heavyweights. He just will. He's better than them. He's still got that skill. As long as they're not knocking him out, he's going to beat the unremarkables. I don't think Acosta is remarkable. I think, like you said, he's pretty one-dimensional. He just got that boxing. Doesn't throw a single kick. Doesn't do really anything else. But unfortunately here, that's probably going to be enough. The physicality, the age difference, the fact he does hit hard, unlike all these other guys we were listing. I do think he's going to put out Arlovski, unfortunately, to the point where I'm even thinking like there might be some value on the knockout prop at minus 180, which feels dirty, but still feels like there's value.
De Lima subbed him, though. That's a bad look because surely De Lima's a knockout guy,
Surely.
And Aspinall subbed him as well, who's also a knockout guy. So,
well, Aspinall's got really good jiu-jitsu.
He does have good jiu-jitsu, but he's knocking guys out. Like, he ain't really subbing guys. But Volkov, he subbed him. But same thing with De Lima. Who has he subbed outside of that? I know he grappled that Adam dude, but other than that, like, he's mainly getting knockouts. I just feel like Arlovski has shown in those 2 fights that he's just going to tap instantly. That Aspinall one was instant tap, bro. It was one of the worst I've ever seen. Like, it was so fast. Why would you tap that quick?
Worth mentioning, though, why'd Aspinall shoot? Arlovski was having some success on the feet.
Aspinall looked a bit tired, like he's getting a bit tired. But Waldo's shown good cardio,
Yeah, he has.
I don't know about Aspinall's cardio. That's still in question, which is kind of crazy because he's like best heavyweight in the world or whatnot. But the guy might have terrible cardio, man. Like, he got tired in that Arlovski fight. I don't know about his cardio, honestly. That's a bit of off topic, but it's an interesting thought because he's probably going to be fighting for the belt, many times in the future. I'd be interested to see him go long.
Yeah, luckily he's at heavyweight, so he probably won't be seeing too many of those.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Do you see all the back and forth with him and Jones today?
Yeah, I've been seeing it a little bit. Like, I didn't read too much of it, but I mean, John's done enough, man. Obviously, I want to see him fight Aspinall, of course, man. I'm an MMA fan, but he's done enough. He's done enough. Do you know what I mean? He's fought like 3 generations of fighters now. He just came back and fought Cyril Gane. Before the John Jones fight, Cyril Gane was looked at as like the Aspinall type thing. Do you know what I mean? So he's already fought that guy. I don't think Jones will fight Aspinall though, but we've seen crazier things. How do you think that fight will go? Would go.
I don't know. I wouldn't bet $1 on it. I would just watch it with a lot of interest. Jones looked slower against Gane, but we got 45 seconds, 1 minute of fight time. So I really don't know.
Jones a beast, man. He might just take Aspinall down and just fucking submit him, bro, or just elbow his face into the canvas. Jones is unreal, man. Jones' best fight of all time. It's not even close, in my opinion.
Yeah, hard to make an argument otherwise.
Yeah,
but I get Aspinall's side. Like, dude wants to be the best. You got to fight the best, and he's kind of just sitting there now with this interim belt until Jones fights Stipe. And Jones said today, he's like, I just want Stipe for the resume, and then I'm done.
Are they going to put down UFC 300?
I had the same thought. I asked it on Twitter last week, but people said that because of the surgeries and stuff that Jones isn't going to be able to.
Oh, really?
I kind of figured that would be the no-brainer, right? If you can't get Conor on, who's the other biggest star you've got? John Jones. But if he's injured...
They'll definitely get Conor. Conor's been training a lot lately. He's training with Brendan Loughlin. He's ready to go. I think there's no reason why they wouldn't get Conor. But I feel like they could do Jones as well on the same card.
They're saying Conor for June for the International Fight Week is what I was hearing.
Isn't that 300?
Nah, I think 300's in March.
Is it scheduled for there though? Because I heard. Is it scheduled for April 100%? Yeah.
Yeah, April 13th.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, that's completely different then. Who knows, man? That UFC 299 card I saw earlier. That's insane, bro. I don't know how they can make 300 better than that.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like, we'll see. Maybe they know what they're doing and they've got some stuff lined up. But to me, it seems crazy. They just keep putting better and better fights on 299. I don't know who they can even come up with at this point to make it better.
But it would be such a crazy thing if they put 299 was like better than 300. It would just be so weird.
Yeah.
I can't see them doing that because Dana's big on brand outlook and stuff. And I know he likes the 100 fights and stuff. So I don't know, man. It's a good year, bro. It's a good year. I can't wait, man. There's many good fights already set.
Yeah. Just like, dude, the fact that Edwards Leon is Edwards Bilal is on 300. That's like, is this really going to be the best card?
Is it definitely on there? Yeah. That's
what I've heard. Yeah, pretty sure. I think it's an unconfirmed rumor though.
That's probably going to be a banger of a fight. That's how it goes all the time. Like it's probably going to be a back and forth war that you just don't expect to be.
I mean, I already know who I'll be betting on. I've been riding Bilal to the bank for a minute now. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
I wonder what the line will be because he was getting pieced up in that first round, but I feel like he's got the style to beat Edwards, and he always comes into the fight later. Edwards always starts hot, so because of that first round, Edwards was minus 500, 400, I think, in that fight. So, and he also dominated the first round, and he's the champion now. He just beat Colby and Usman twice, so Edwards might be a big favorite, but I feel like a lot of sharps are going to bet Bilal, man. So I don't know what the line will be.
Yeah, I mean, if we get something crazy like plus 300, I'm all over that. But I'll even play 150.
I think you'll get 150.
I think I will. Yeah, I'm pretty confident about that. Bilal opened plus 300. Is that for the current line? I mean, for this upcoming fight or for the first one? Let me know.
Probably the upcoming one, but I don't look at those openers. They don't exist, bro. They're not real. I mean,
I haven't seen it.
I know you sometimes hit the openers, which is good. I have no problem with
the DraftKings ones,
bro. Like someone's gonna hit him. I just can't do it because one, I'm not on the ball that much, and the money's not that, the limits are not high enough for me to bet it to make it worth it. So I just leave it.
If you had DraftKings, I think you'd be fine with the limits. I'm pretty sure they're relatively high.
Yeah, sometimes then they're like 5K and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that. I ain't playing 5K just yet, but they've been doing openers more. Like it used to be always bet online. They posted and then the rest of the books would follow like a few days later. Now DraftKings has been like trying to drop their own openers, and they've been so bad. Like they opened McGhee at minus 130, I think. They opened Kape at minus 115. They opened Nolan at minus 160.
Must get a DK book, bro.
If you can, I'd suggest it, man, for sure.
Chat to some of my American guys. We'll speak after, bro. We'll speak after.
I got you. But all right, moving on. Speaking of that, we got Bruno Ferreira and Phil Hawes. I'm pretty sure one of them opened as a giant dog for no reason. What was it? Yeah, Ferreira was plus 180 on DraftKings when it opened for this one.
That's mad.
We've got Hawes versus Bruno Ferreira. Hawes 12-5-0. He's 35 years old, 6 foot tall with a 77-inch reach. Ferreira on the other side, 10-1-0. He's 4 years younger at 31, going to be 2 inches shorter and have a 5-inch reach disadvantage. So I'll start us off. One of my new rules for this year was I don't care how much better the fighter is. If they've got a chin problem and the other guy can knock them out, I'm not going to bet them. So internally, everything is screaming at me to bet Phil Hawes. I think he's a significantly better fighter. I do think we're kind of working with a limited sample for Bruno Ferreira. I have a hard time getting a good read off of him with the tape that we do have. I don't really know what his grappling defense looks like, and I've looked at pretty much all his fights. I know that his grappling offense is pretty decent, but how's it going to look against a really good wrestler like Hawes? I don't know. I think his striking is pretty good, but I think his output is pretty bad for Ferreira. The power is clearly there. That was a great knockout of Gregory Rodriguez. But at the same time, like everyone's running to bet him, but he also just got knocked out in the first round. I know it was a much bigger guy, but it was also a guy everybody was screaming was a bum, a bum, a bum. So it's interesting. Only people are only talking about the Hawes chin, not the Ferreira possible chin issues. But I get it. Hawes now, 3 fights he's shown it? Ikram, Delitse, Curtis. All really good fighters, though. That's another thing. Yeah, I can go around in circles with this all day long. I think Hawes should win. I think without the chin, if chins weren't a thing, I think he will win. But again, I'm not betting a guy just for him to get knocked out with 1 punch in the second round or something like that. So I'm going to pick Hawes, but I'm going to leave my money off of this one. How about you, James?
Yeah, it all comes down to implied probability and how often you think Phil Hawes wins the fight, right? Like, I understand just completely not betting him because he has a chin issue. And that's a viable strategy because the most important thing is to save the units, is not to always bet where you think there's an edge, right? So there's 2 sides to the coin. But what it ultimately comes down to, if you don't have strict rules like that, never ever bet Phil Hawes, for example, which is fine. You've made that as a rule. It comes down to implied probability. How often do you think the fight's going to win? And it's like everybody already knows Phil Hawes has a bad chin. I don't think we're getting an edge over the market by betting on Bruno Ferreira because he can just knock out Phil Hawes, right? I think the market is already priced up, and that's why it's a pick 'em. I believe that Phil Hawes is a minus 200, minus 250 favorite, just like Gregory Rodriguez was if he didn't have a bad chin. But Gregory Rodriguez did have a bad chin, and he was still minus 250, right? And I actually bet on Bruno Ferreira in that spot at like plus 250, and I also bet on him to win via KO in round 1 at plus 800. But now we're talking about even money, right? And I just feel like it's a little bit overcompensated because of Phil Hawes' chin issues, because I also feel like Bruno Ferreira could have the exact same issues. We just don't know. We haven't ever seen it. The guy was running through bums for the most part. He's got power like Hulk, fair enough. But outside of that, I don't think he offers too much, man. And yeah, Phil Hawes has fights where he's been fine, like Imavov fight. He should get knocked out in that fight, but he didn't. Even the Carl Dawkins fight, potentially should get finished in that fight. I mean, Carl Dawkins saying great, but you know what I'm saying? Especially the Imavov fight. That was a fight where, like, Imavov was a terrible matchup for him, but he still won the fight. So it's not 100% that he's going to get knocked out. And I just feel like when we're trying to get edges over the market, I feel like the biggest edge on this fight is probably recency bias from Phil Hawes' knockouts in a row. I believe that that's the case. I don't think people are capping in the fact that Ferreira just got knocked out in his last fight. He may also have a terrible chin. and we know nothing outside of him we know nothing about him outside of he's got crazy power. So when I'm looking at, any type of edge on the fight, I think it's probably on the Phil Hawes side. Much better fighter, much higher level of competition, much wider skill set. He may just take his opponent down and knock him out on the ground, elbow him. I don't know, man. It feels dirty, but I think Phil Hawes is the clear side in the fight. If anything, you just play the knockout. It's all about getting edges over the market, man. And I just don't see an edge on Phil Hawes is going to get knocked out. That's why I kind of look at the over a little bit more. So I looked at the under. Well, initially I was like, I'll bet the under 1.5. But then I think it was like minus 300 or something ridiculous, right? So then I was like, okay, well then now maybe I bet the over now. Because if I'm getting an edge on the market, which is what I'm trying to do, it probably lies there, in my opinion. But we'll see, man. He might get knocked out again. It's obviously possible, but I'll pick Phil Hawes for the knockout win.
Yeah, I'm with you on Hawes. I definitely think he wins, should win. I would have lined him a pretty decent favorite personally, but yeah, I got to watch those units this time around. After last year, definitely got to watch the units. But with what you were saying just now, the possible with the overs, man, they had fight goes to decision at plus 700. That's where they opened it, and it was there for a second. Not for a second, like for a decent amount of time. Now it's plus 450, kind of lost its thing for me, but I think that's pretty off too. I could see a world where Hawes does grapple and we do go to a decision, or where they don't grapple too much and they strike, but Hawes doesn't get knocked out. Like you said, there have been fights where he didn't get finished. Imavov, he did almost die in the third round, but he held on there. He held on. So I think that's a decent long shot if you're looking for one, but I'll probably end up staying away. The over 1.5 at plus 200 is also kind of interesting, though.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I don't have active thoughts on it, but I saw minus 300, I think, for the over 1.5 when I wanted to bet it. And so then I instantly flipped, okay, maybe there's value on the over. I feel like it's probably lined fairly accurately. Like, I think someone's going to die in round one quite consistently. So I feel like it's like the lines you just told me are probably fairly accurate. I definitely wouldn't be playing any unders, though.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe once DraftKings opens up, the fight starts round 2. That might be another one I'll look at. If that's like plus money, maybe I'll consider that. But moving on, we've got another fight. This one's got everybody split. We've got Ricky Simón versus Mario Bautista. Ricky is 24-0. He's 31 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Bautista 13-2-0. He's going to be 1 year younger, 3 inches taller, and have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, James?
Yeah, so I think this is a good matchup for Simón. I'm always talking about edges over the market. I feel like the edge over the market in this spot is that Ricky Simón got exposed in his last fight. He lost very convincingly. And Mario Bautista got a win against a good fighter in his last fight. But it was a very close fight. I'm not sure if Mario Bautista deserved the win. And so maybe they're overrating. Maybe there's recency bias, right? Mario's coming off a win. Simón's coming off a loss. I think that on the feet, Mario's probably a little bit more dynamic. Ricky Simón doesn't offer too much. He's got a good overhand. He can disguise his boxing a little bit well. But other than that, Mario Bautista's got better kicks, way better. I think he's got better setups, probably better footwork, maybe more power even. He's more of a dynamic finisher. Whether he's got more power strictly if they hit the punch bag machine or not, I don't really know. But he's more of a dynamic finisher. And outside of that, though, I think Ricky Simón is a bad stylistic matchup for him because I haven't liked the way Mario Bautista has looked with his takedown defense. You know, he's been taken down many times. He got taken down 4 times in his fight against Damon Blackshear. 4 times is a lot of times to get taken down. Ricky Simón's probably going to take him down 4 times or more as well. You know, unless he's completely spooked off from the Song fight, then I think he's just going to press him up against the cage, take him down again. I don't think he's going to hold him down because Bautista definitely has good get-up ability. But I don't think he needs to take... Ricky Simón don't hold anyone down anyway. I was speaking to someone on Telegram earlier in the week and they was like, yeah, but if Ricky doesn't hold him, like, do you think Ricky's going to hold him down? Because if not, then I'm going to bet Mario. And I'm like, no. That's not the way to look at it, because Ricky doesn't really hold anyone down anyway. He's not that type of fighter. Yes, of course, he can get a submission over Jack Shaw after he rocks him, or he can get a submission on that Gaetano Perello dude or whatnot. The jiu-jitsu is not the worst of all time, but it's not like he's just taking guys down and submitting them, like holding in half guard and transitioning to mount and stuff. He basically taking him down just to take him down again. You know, he's a relentless wrestler. So I don't think that Mario's get-up ability is that important in this fight, because I feel like most people are going to get up from Simone, but just take him down again. So it could be like a plus EV loss where, like a Jonathan Pierce Brito, where Bautista gets some form of submission guillotine or something. I kind of see that as a possibility. I just have something in my head as to where Simone's going to be so obvious with his takedowns, consistently just repeating the same one against the cage, the double, switch to single, and he may get guillotined or something. I have that in my head, but it's more of a gut feeling type thing. Not that it's going to happen, but that it could happen versus an actual skill set thing I see on tape. So, yeah, I think someone with 56% takedown accuracy like Mario Bautista, who has shown that he can be taken down in the past and has shown that he doesn't fight well if he's not dictating the pace of the fight, I don't think that's a good style to go up against Ricky Simone. Obviously, you can catch Ricky Simone coming in. Ricky doesn't have a great, like 50% of the time, Ricky has a dodgy chin. 50% of the time, Ricky has a great chin. It's a bit of a weird one. So obviously, Bautista can land something, but I do think Ricky Simone can bounce back here. Stylistically, I feel like he should just be able to dictate the pace and win a decision. So I think he's going to win a decision.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think there's an edge here too, based off recency bias, but I see it the other way. I feel like despite Bautista getting that win over Blackshear, people are looking at it saying Blackshear was short notice. Blackshear should have won that fight. And I feel like that is affecting the line, but the other way. And I feel like a lot of people, at least that I've seen, are basing a lot of their decisions backing Ricky based off of that. And like the first thing I would say is Blackshear is also a very good wrestler. I understand he was on short notice, but he's a very big dude. He's much more physical than a guy like Ricky. Maybe not physical. I think physical, but not stronger is what I'm trying to say. I think the size really adds something to the physicality. And, you know, Bautista still showed a pretty decent job at scrambling. I think he's very good at scrambling. I think he's got great get-ups, good jiu-jitsu, threatens a lot of things to get back up. And like you mentioned with Ricky taking him down, right? So that's another reason I actually chose to bet Bautista, is that I agree that Ricky will probably get him down, and I agree that Ricky won't hold him down. But I feel like that won't be enough here. I feel like just taking him down against Bautista, a guy who will be doing damage wherever they are, even if he's on bottom, I don't know if just blanket takedowns is going to be enough. And I have a really hard time seeing him actually hold Bautista down and do damage. I have a hard time seeing that. He doesn't really do it against anyone. And a guy like Bautista is very difficult to hold down. And at some point, someone brought up the small cage, which made me think about it. Like, it's a smaller cage that should lend itself to the grappler and Ricky, which I considered for a second. And then I thought to myself, honestly, maybe that's actually better for Bautista, because if Ricky's taking him down in the open mat, that's different, right? It's a lot harder to defend a takedown in the open mat. But once you're up against the fence, we're talking about something else. And what's something that Bautista does really well is the clinch. He's very good in the clinch. He's good offensively. He's good defensively. Something I loved about the Jay Perrin fight was the way that he would post up on that neck and just turn him in, be able to circle off the fence. Stuff like that, I think, is actually going to lend itself to Bautista. So if Ricky's pushing for the takedowns, pushing him up against the fence, but not getting the takedown, who do I think is going to be doing damage there? I think it's going to be Mario doing the damage. I think he's going to be the one throwing elbows, knees, making it dirty. I think the guy can fight at range. I think the guy can make it a brawl. It doesn't matter for Bautista. I agree with you that he's more dynamic. I think Ricky's relatively limited in the striking. I agree with some people that he is getting better. He seems to be improving with his boxing, but I still think that Bautista is a better striker. So for me, plus 145, it wasn't a difficult click to make. I think it's a pretty decent edge. I personally see it maybe 50-50, maybe slight lean Ricky, because he is such a good wrestler and because Bautista has been taken down quite a bit. But with the striking, with the scrambling, with the jiu-jitsu, I just like Bautista quite a bit at this price. So I took a 1-unit shot at plus 145.
Let's go, bro. First head-to-head, like real head-to-head. So
yeah, that's the first one. And like now that I'm also talking about it, MMA Lab, right? I was talking about it earlier. That's a good gym to be facing off against grapplers, preparing for grapplers, because you've got a lot of them there.
Yeah, something I am worried about in this fight is so when I did my MMA betting principles video about a week ago, and I sent out an article to everyone as well. And one thing I said in that was literally one of my top 10 principles for betting MMA is in a game where we have to make guesses, gambling is guessing, predicting what's going to happen. The lesser amount of guesses we can make, the better. And a big guess I have to make in this fight, and I don't like doing it often. Obviously, it's line dependent, and sometimes you have to make guesses. Is that Ricky is coming off a bad loss, right? In a fight where if he would have won, he probably would have fought for the title. Or if not, in the next fight, right? It was a big, big fight for him. And he shit the bed badly in that fight. Like, he didn't really shoot a lot. He was spooked off big time. And he kind of got pieced up. So coming back off that big loss, we don't know how he's going to perform. He could be very tentative, and he may not be himself. So that's definitely a big worry I have on the Ricky Simón side. It's probably the main worry I have is like how he's going to come back off that Song fight. And I don't think I mentioned it. So it's definitely worth mentioning because it is a big guess that we have to make. But I do think that if he returns like his usual self pre-Song fight, I think stylistically it's a good matchup for him. Yeah,
definitely see it. But all right, moving on. We've got Jim Miller versus Gabriel Benitez. Jim Miller, 36, 17, and 0. He's 40 years old at this point. 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Benitez on the other side. He's 23, 10, and 0. 35. He's 5 years younger. Going to be the same height, same reach. I'll start us off here. So I seem to be differing from most of the market, or at least most of the people I've seen, because the market hasn't really moved too much. I like Benitez here. I think he's got a pretty good shot at winning this fight. I don't know if I'm going to bet it because I don't feel too much of an edge. I think it's going to be close. I think whoever wins is going to win a close decision. I guess I could see Miller knocking him out, and I could honestly see Benitez knocking him out too. But I think we're probably going to decision here. I feel like people are getting a little overhyped on Miller, and it's confusing and a weird thing to say because he's 40 years old. But like, he's knocking out Jesse Butler, great, yes, and he knocked out Motta and he knocked out Eric Gonzalez. But Motta hurt him, Gonzalez hurt him. Both of those guys aren't great. We spoke about Motta earlier. We all know Ghost Pepper at this point. Benitez is a very solid striker. He's a good striker. He's got pretty good power. Granted, that's at 145. He is going up to 155 here. How's that going to translate? That's a good question. You were talking about guesses earlier. That's a guess to be made here. How's he going to handle the power coming at him at 155? It's another guess. For me, I feel like he's going to handle it pretty well. Jim Miller, he's not really this amazing dynamic striker. He's pretty basic with his striking. It's a lot of hooks, a lot of power hooks, a lot of left hooks. The power's there. Can knock him down. I just don't see him just beating him up on the feet. Technique-wise, I think Benitez is much cleaner. Grappling upside will go to Miller, but is Miller really shooting recently? Is he really pushing for takedowns recently? He's almost not doing it at all. He's really not looking for that anymore. Why? I don't know. Maybe he'll do it in this fight. That's another guess. But I feel like Benitez will be able to keep it on the feet. He does have solid takedown defense. He's at a good camp for that, a.k.a. I think he's going to have Cain Velasquez in his corner this week, which is pretty crazy. And I just think at range, I think he's going to beat up on Miller a little bit. I think as long as he doesn't get knocked out, I do think Benitez wins this fight. So he's nearing plus money. I've considered it. I just see it 50-50. So even at plus money, I'm not seeing a ton of value. We'll see where the line goes, but I'm going to pick Benitez for now with no bet. How about you, James?
Yeah, I'm liking the other side as well on this one because I think Benitez is washed. And I also feel like Miller's old, but I actually think Benitez may be more washed than Miller. I don't think Benitez is a terrible fighter. I think he's a very good fighter, but I feel like he looks better than his results will ever be. And he looks better than he actually ends up being. I know it's kind of an oxymoron, but what I mean by that is early is always dangerous. He was fucking up on armor, but then he gets cool. He dropped Billy Q at like the third round, but like he just gets drowned. What other fights? Omar Morales, like that was a war. He was looking good, but he loses the fight to Omar Morales like quite cleanly. He's getting hurt in that fight. I think maybe it's his durability. He gets hurt a lot and he gets finished a lot. So probably that's what it is. Like he looks really good, but then he gets finished. So maybe that's why he looks better than he actually is because he just ends up getting hurt a lot. He gets wobbled and stuff. But he is a good striker, man. Like Benitez, I like him. I just feel like stylistically, he ain't got that dog in him. I don't think he's got as much dog as Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller's going to be the one pushing more of a pace. And I feel like even though Jim Miller does gas, he just pushes through better than Gabriel Benitez. I think he's going to be able to take more than Benitez can. I also think he can win by submission, by decision, and by knockout. And I see less ways for Benitez to win. I think he can win by knockout, most certainly. I don't give him much submission upside at all. And I don't give him much decision upside at all. Because I think in rounds 2 and round 3, I think Miller's going to start to have his way. The only way in which I see Benitez winning the decision is if, like, he hurts Jim early and Jim gets spooked off. I feel like the leg kicks, he could just compromise his leg early and then just tee off on him for 3 rounds. Or like body kick, because he's got amazing body kicks. Maybe he just hurts Jim really badly and Jim doesn't want to push the pace. But I don't really get the sense from Jim, even at this age, that he's just going to just like kind of quit type thing, just not really throw, not really fight. Benitez will get into a war with you. He tries not to. He's just not good enough. He's too old. He's too washed. He just ain't fast enough, like in terms of his defense, to not get into a war. And I favor Jim Miller in a war a little bit better. I think he's much better with the boxing. I think he can time his boxing way faster. I think his durability is a little bit higher at this age of their career. I just feel like there's advantages a little bit for Jim Miller in many realms of the game. And obviously they compound to be a decent advantage in the fight. But I do think Benitez has massive finishing upside early because he can finish anyone early. And I think Jim Miller can definitely be finished early. So, but yeah, I mean, outside of a round 1 KO, I kind of feel like, or like a leg kick decision, I feel like Miller's going to work him. You know, I was quite impressed by Miller against Alexander Hernandez. That's what's really telling, because like you said, man, Jesse Butler knockout, yeah, all right. Eric Gonzalez, like Nikolas Motta, can't really say much about that. It's nothing crazy. Like Gabriel Benitez would probably knock out those guys as well.
Yep.
You know, but it's like the Charlie Ontiveros fight. We don't take too much away from it for the Benitez. It's kind of the same with those guys, with Jim Miller. But the Alexander Hernandez fight, I feel like Jim Miller performed well in that fight, man. And he came back in round 3, took Alexander Hernandez down, got his back, had the rear naked choke, the face crank. I was like, damn, the guy's put in the pace on Alex in round 3. And I was actually very impressed by that fight. I know he lost clearly, but his durability looked good. He took some big shots from a big hitter in Hernandez, at least early. And I just feel like Benitez would not compete at that level against Hernandez after the first round. I just think Jim Miller's going to push. I think his durability is higher, and I think that's what's going to get him the win.
Yeah, fair game. I'm more than likely staying off. I don't see a ton of value either way, but yeah, we can move on. Next up, we've got a rematch. This I'm very hyped for. Matheus Nicolau versus Manel Kape 2. Nicolau 19-3-1, 31 years old. He's 5'6" at the 66-inch reach. Kape 19-6-0, 30 years old. He's 1 year younger, 1 inch shorter, but going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Why don't you start us off, brother?
Yeah, so this is the rematch. Obviously, we all know that these guys fought, I believe it was back in 2021. I only had one bet on that fight. It was Manel Kape to win in round 2, and he almost won in round 2. He knocked him down, and Matheus Nicolau was on skates for 5 minutes. He was running away from the fight. Manel Kape was being way too patient, as he sort of did in his early UFC run. He was more patient. He's not like that now. I believe after that fight, both of them went on streaks. They both won 3 fights in a row. But their last fight was big difference, right? Manel Kape obviously beat that nutty Brazilian dude, Dos Santos, and Matheus Nicolau got knocked out by that nutty American dude, Brandon Royval. And I feel like that's going to rear its ugly head in this fight. Manel Kape hits very hard, very pinpoint accuracy. He almost knocked him out in the first fight. And I think he's going to knock him out in this fight. It's nothing. Like, I'm not really saying anything that's too crazy. We saw the fight happen. It was a 50-50 fight. I believe the decision was correct. Split decision. A lot of people were against it. I believe that was a good decision. It was very close. But I do believe Nicolau won the fight. I just think he's going to get hurt, man. He doesn't react well to getting hit. He's never reacted well to getting hit. He got knocked out by Dustin Ortiz back in the day in the UFC. He just got knocked out again in the UFC. I think he's going to get knocked out again in the UFC. I see Manel Kape finishing him via boxing or maybe a crazy flying knee or something.
Yeah, it feels almost lazy at this point, but like, I do think Kape's going to win. I think the original fight showed us some things. I think that it was pretty clear, especially if you knew Kape before his UFC start, that the first two fights against Pantoja and against Nicolau were kind of uncharacteristic. The way he was kind of just starting slow, very hesitant, low output. And since then, we've seen the complete opposite. The guy's coming out there to kill people now. I know he didn't finish Dos Santos, but that's just a classic shootbox guy who can take a million punches to the head. I don't know what they're feeding them over there, some good vitamins, but dude is really good. He's a really good striker. He's really explosive. He has good grappling of his own. Can Nicolau get takedowns here? Probably. Can Nicolau get some control? Probably. Can he threaten a sub? Probably. But I don't think he's submitting him. I don't think he's going to get enough control time to win another decision. And for me, the Royval knockout was pretty surprising. I did not think that was going to happen. I've been high on Nicolau for a while and definitely didn't think Royval could knock him out, and not the way he did. So that's also another concern with him. I think that Kape will get that knockout. I think he's much more powerful than a guy like Royval. I think he's just as explosive, if not more so. I just think this is a great fight for Kape. It's a great rematch. I think he's getting close to his title shot. I personally have one of my first futures bets on Kape to be champion end of 2024. Got that at plus 1,200, which I felt was a pretty decent bet. It's kind of hard to quantify it without knowing how many fights he's going to have or whether he's even going to get the ability to fight for the title. But the way I see it, he beats Nicolau here. Let's say he knocks him out super nicely. I see them giving him one more fight tops before a title shot. And then at flyweight, we have Pantoja now. Is there another contender like ready to go? I can't think of one off the top of my head.
No, Pantoja, Moreno probably will fight.
We have Moreno Albazi fighting soon, but are they really going to give either of those guys a title shot? I don't know.
Maybe if Albazi wins in good fashion, they'd give him a title shot. But Manel Kape is a great bet for a future one. It's a very popular one. I actually had Manel Kape last year, so to be champion at the end of last year. And I mean, the guy fought 3 times and he dominated, every fight. It just didn't match up because Brandon was facing Figueiredo, was facing Pantoja, so it just didn't line up that way. But I think this is the year, to have the bet on him. It's very tough with futures because you never know. Like Figueiredo and Moreno, they had 4 fights. You never know, right? I didn't know it was going to be a razor close this year. I didn't know it was going to be a draw in their first fight, razor close. Like you don't know how it's going to match up. But I feel like Kape's definitely going to get a shot this year, whether he wins or not. But I think it's a great bet. I wonder what the odds is now because I haven't been able to bet it, but I still want to bet Kape this year.
So I know DraftKings, it started at plus 1,200. That's what I got. All the limits were shit, though. Across all books, I think the limit was like $100. Didn't matter what book.
Makes sense.
And then it dropped to like plus 800, and then DraftKings just took off their futures altogether. So I don't know what's going on there. I've seen a few people bet it since then, though.
I had Erin Blanchfield last year as well. That was a very tough one to take because if Valentina didn't rematch Grasso with the submission and then with the crazy draw, Erin would have fought for the title. We know what would have happened there. So I had Kape and Erin, and there was 2 semi-close ones. I was kind of pissed off, but we'll see what I do this year. I've not done anything yet.
Yeah, I just have Kape and I took Umar also. I got plus something crazy. I think it was plus 800 on Umar or 700 I got.
I had him last year at
him too.
I think it was 40 to 1 because you just never know, man. And I think he could beat the champion. So I was like, late pullouts, you never know. I'll just do it. And so I feel like all the ones I had last year probably going to win a belt this year, which is kind of crazy, because I don't even know if I'm going to bet him this year. Depends on the price and stuff. But I was just a year too late. I'm not very good in the futures markets. It's tough to know what's going to happen, isn't it? But that's why we get massive odds on them.
Yeah, that's why you can only bet the massive odds because so many things can happen in 1 year.
Yeah, it's crazy. You get some plus 150, like Islam champion plus 150. Like the guy might just get injured and vacate. Like what? It's just ridiculous,
Yeah, there's no value on something like that.
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident that bantamweight, it's either going to be Umar or Merab who's champ. And like if those two fought, I don't even know who I'd pick. I'd probably pick Umar, but
I think O'Malley's going to piece them all up, bro.
Merab is just after that Peter Yan fight, I started to respect him. I mean, Yan didn't win a second there. Forget a round. He didn't even win a second in that fight. Merab just won't stop. Just doesn't stop.
He's going to have a good chance to knock him out in round 1, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's his
Marlon
face?
Moraes fight. Yeah. Remember that Marlon Moraes fight, bro? We never forget that one.
Never. That was one of the first times I actually bet Merab. And then he almost died, and I was like, oh, great.
Yeah, I actually had Marlon round 1, Merab round 2, Merab round 3.
Nice.
Fight doesn't go, like, just covered it all. And it was funny because I think, so Marlon, if Marlon had won in round 1, I would like break even. So when he almost knocked him out, I was like cheering for him not to knock him out because I knew I would break even, but also I knew I'd get more money if Merab won. And I knew that if he survived, he was going to win because Marlon was just emptying it all, right? And I knew he was going to gas out. That's why I bet 2-3. So I was cheering like, come on, Merab, survive, survive, survive. And then he got to round 2 and survived. And then it was finishing him in round 2, was hurting him in round 2. But there was only like 30 seconds left to get to round 3. And if it got to round 3 and Merab finished, I won so much more money than round 2. Obviously, the price was way wider. So then I was cheering for Marlon to survive. I was like, no, come on, survive, survive. But then obviously he got finished in round 2. So I read that one well. But yeah, Merab's a bit crazy, man. He comes in and he doesn't really care about defense. So Sean O'Malley's a sniper, bro. We saw in that first fight. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that O'Malley shocks the world again in that one. But he still has to get through Marlon Vera, bro. So there's a lot that's going to happen.
That's a great fight, too. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
But all right, moving on to our main event, we've got another rematch. Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2. Ankalaev, 18-1-1, 31 years old, 6'3" with the 75-inch reach. Walker, 21-7-0, same age, 3 inches taller at 6'6", and he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage with an 82-inch reach. Why don't you start us off, James?
Not much to say about this one. We've already seen the fight. It's funny because the co-main event and the main event are both rematches. And we saw what happened in the last fight. Not much. Johnny Walker tried to do some crazy shit. Ankalaev stayed very calm. He showed that he stayed calm, easy, didn't affect him at all, didn't phase him, didn't get caught up in the moment. Switched, took him down, took the back a little bit, was kind of beating him up, looked easy for him. I actually paid Ankalaev at like minus 350 in the first fight. I won't play him at minus 500 here. It's not the massive difference, but it's enough difference for me not to play it. And because I didn't think I was getting massive value anyway, I just thought it was a very confident spot that was minor value, which I do sometimes. When I play bets, I often like to play bets where I think there's big value, but also where maybe there's not big value, but I'm very confident, right? So there's different ways I like to play bets. There may be some value. I don't really know. I am confident. Definitely not enough to play it. There's no meat on the bone. I was looking at some of the props. There's nothing I really like in the props either. I think Ankalaev's going to win. I think he's probably going to finish. I don't have much to say, mate. The minus 500 probably wins this fight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to say either. It's funny that, like, you see the people saying that Johnny Walker was winning the first 3 minutes of that fight or whatever because he was landing nice leg kicks. I've seen several people say that now, and it's just so strange to me. Like, that's not what I saw, at least. Not the first time watching it and not on the rematch and not on the rewatch. So for me, I think it's Ankalaev. I think it's pretty clear. The only way I see Walker winning is a knockout early, round 1 or 2. He is very explosive. He's very powerful. He's a giant of a man. Of course, he can knock him out. But Ankalaev, he might be boring, but the dude is very, very good. He's a very good fighter. He's a very good striker. He's a good grappler. If he's not comfortable in the striking, he'll take him down. I'm pretty damn confident he will. So I'm definitely not playing the dog. Not going to parlay Ankalaev either. I'm just not in the business of doing that anymore. The one interesting prop was they opened the submission at plus 1,100, which got me pretty tempted because I do think he probably does take it to the ground. I do think we're going to see the ground game. I know he only has one submission on his record, but I kind of see it happening here. So I thought that was a pretty good spot, but I didn't really play it. So, and now it's like plus 800 or something like that. Other than that, I don't have too much to add. I think Ankalaev probably finishes him in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where I'll put a little sprinkle from one of my separate bankrolls, a little shitty fun bankroll on the submission. I ain't gonna put any real money on it because it's probably gonna take him down and ground and pound him. I've never really seen him move to any type of submission in the UFC. Really, I can't remember it. Has he ever done it? He must.
I went through all of them. I don't think he's attempted a single one.
I haven't really ever seen it. Yeah, but he's got a decent amount of takedowns, so it's quite interesting. Yeah, man. Maybe I'll throw a little chunk of change on it. 800's not bad, bro. Like, have a fun, you know. Last fight of the night, we just have some fun. Nothing crazy. Some couch money.
Couch warrior, couch money. Yes, sir.
Bang.
But yeah, that's all, guys. That is UFC Vegas 84. Next, we got UFC 297, literally the week after. That'll be great too. Hyped to talk about that card. And yeah, thanks as always for coming on, James. Always a good time. Why don't you plug yourself real quick? What you got? I know you have a lot going on now. Saw you started dropping some shorts too. So plug all that, and then we can hop on out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, bro. I know it's the first card of the year. So as I said, it's a privilege to come on for the first card of the year. We're head-to-head on 1 or 2 fights, but we kind of agree. So hopefully I'll win on those 2 fights. Yeah, 1.5. Hopefully I win on those 2 fights, and then, you know, we're even on the rest of the fights. I got a lot of bets on this card, man. So I didn't think I was gonna have a lot of bets. I kind of wanted to ease into the new year, but I can't control what the market does. You know, I just have to react to it. So yeah, I got a lot of bets this year, and I do have a lot going on, like you said. Everyone's on YouTube, so just stay on YouTube. If you just follow me on YouTube, that's all you need to do, bro. Lucrative MMA on YouTube. I got many shorts I'm posting regularly. I've also got a new stream, which I'm doing a parlay stream. So that's going to be every Friday, 2 p.m. New Zealand time, which is going to be like Thursday, 9 p.m. for you guys or something crazy like that. So the day before. So I'm going to do a parlay stream where I put together some parlays, not just parlays for the sake of it. Obviously, we're going to make sure every bet is plus EV, but we're going to have some fun with it. Parlays are fun. They're inherently a little bit more fun. So that's going to be a new stream I'm doing. I'm also doing a weekly breakdown stream and all of the shorts. So if you're on YouTube, just go and follow me on YouTube, and you'll be seeing a lot more of me, bro. So thanks for having me on again, and hopefully we can catch this weekend.
Hell yeah. And yeah, for myself real quick. So let me double check. I forget sometimes what I have going on in my own damn life. But yeah, so I think tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Yeah. So I think Thursday, me and Propaholic might be bringing back Prop Talk on Twitter Spaces, where we just break down the card from a solely prop perspective. Check that out. I'll post about it on my Twitter if we do end up doing it. And then I'm going to do my YouTube. I actually already did my YouTube shorts. Those are all up. I post 1-minute breakdowns for each fight. I talk really fast, so it works out. I'm able to get as much as I can in there. It's really hard sometimes, though. And people will be like, why couldn't you do more detail? And I'm just like, dude, it's 1 minute long. There's only so many words I can fit, even if I talk really fast. But
don't they go up to 90 seconds? I think they do in one platform, Instagram or something, but maybe not YouTube.
Maybe Instagram. Yeah. I do them right on the YouTube app. Like I record it straight up on the YouTube app.
60
minutes. Yeah, it's 15 or 60 seconds. So I do 60, talk as fast as I can, and they do okay. So those are up if you guys prefer short breakdowns. This is now obviously up, and then I'll have the Prop Talk show probably on Thursday, and that's it for this week. And then next week already is a much bigger week. We'll have the panel, all that fun stuff. I'll be posting about that later on. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us, hanging with us. Appreciate every one of you. Good luck and peace out.